correct side. You know, Winston Churchill once called it the last war of gentlemen. Gentlemen, indeed, it was a holiday for butchers, whether with shot or shell or scalpel. It cost a young nation of less than 20 million people a total of 650,000 dead, more than all of our other wars put together. It is something to brood over. Well, going back to the three lads of the Cleveland Irish who went in the Hibernian Guards, they got in the 8th OVI, Ohio Volunteer Infantry, in the first half of the Civil War, fought in the Eastern Amphitheater. There's a Western Amphitheater too, but the first half, the 8th OVI was involved in just about every big action that there was, and they were decimated. They had an awful lot of guys killed, but they're terrifically brave. Why were they so brave? Maybe because they want to show their new countrymen, their host countrymen, that we are somebody and we love this country and maybe we'll get a good job after the war. Did it work? To a certain degree, it seems so. Yes, people were respected for having been in the Grand Army of the Republic, GR. So it did work somewhat. There's an awful lot of people. The first battle in which this is Camp Taylor. This is the 8th OVI ready to begin their march into battle. If you can see that, the first big battle in which the 8th Ohio was involved was a battle called Antietam. It was fought on the 17th of September, 1862. It is a one-day battle. If you remember nothing else about this talk, except this, I hope you remember that Antietam, no less than 23,000 Americans fell. Killed and wounded, 23,000. On D-Day, we lost a total of 7,000 killed and wounded. 23,000 young Americans stood 30 feet away and shot each other. Here is a place in the middle of the Antietam battlefield. It's in Maryland. And it's a place in the middle of the battlefield. It's called the Sunken Road. And in that road was a couple of brigades under A.P. Hill, Confederate brigades, Georgians. And the 8th Ohio and the 7th Ohio came down the side of this hill. If you can see right, they came charging with their bayonets against the Confederates who were in the Sunken Road, down the side of the hill. Confederates just never stopped shooting them down. But eventually they did capture the trench and capture and kill a lot of Confederates. But the 8th and 7th OVI have a plaque there because they lost so many young men. Nevertheless, Butler, O'Reilly, and Colby continue on. 2 months later, in December of 1862, there's a battle called Fredericksburg. It's fought right before Christmas in the bitter cold. And in this hill, it's called Marie's Heights. It's absolutely unapproachable. There's no way that any group of infantrymen marching along can come up this hill and can come up that hill. Confederates completely covered the hill. Longstreet said, you know, if there's a chicken out here in the battlefield, I could kill it with a cannonball. Poor 8th OVI comes up against the side of this stone wall right here, along with the 69th New York, 88th Massachusetts, Boston. They seem to be all Irish. 6 brigades of Irish were thrown in 6 charges up against the side of this hill. They took terrible losses, 4,000 dead and wounded down at the bottom of the hill at Fredericksburg. And they never broke through the line. And some of the clergy back in New York were saying, you know, it seems funny that they seem to use only Irish in those charges. That's the only people that got killed practically at Fredericksburg. And maybe it's because they feel that the most expendable people we have in the nation are the Irish, the immigrants. Again, at Chancellorsville, he came to the hill, the same place at Fredericksburg, on the other side of the stone wall, and there's a whole lot of the Irish brigades dead and wounded there in the battlefield. General Lee, in spring of '63, says, look, we have to carry the war into the North. We're not getting any more recruits. We're not getting, nobody can come to this country because of the blockade, and the North is getting more. Germans are getting more Irish all the time. So we're going to have to do something. We're going to invade the North, maybe break the Union Army someplace in Pennsylvania, then capture Harrisburg, Philadelphia, Baltimore, sue for peace, and it's the only way we have of winning. So with that, this Confederate Army, high-stomach, confident that spring, they swung out of Dixie with the victories of Fredericksburg and Chancellorsville fresh and terrible on their battlefields. They were coming up to win. The Union Army of the Potomac, now under General Meade, marches out to meet them, and they meet at a crossroads. It's a rural Quaker small town called Gettysburg. There they fight, and it is certainly the definitive moment of the Civil War. The Battle of Gettysburg lasts 3 days, July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of '63. They fought back and forth for 2 days, an awful lot of people getting hit and killed, but no big breakthrough. If you can look at the map, the Confederates are here on a ridge called the Seminary Ridge. There's a Lutheran seminary there. That's where Marguerite's Confederate Army of Northern Virginia is. The Union Army is behind a stone wall, more or less. They're also on a ridge called Cemetery Ridge. Between them, there is a no man's land of about a mile, which is just farmland. It's just flat farmland, but the two ridges are fairly high.